Out of you. All right, let's take it away here. Our guest today is a gentleman by the name of Nick Hexum, who happens to be the singer and guitarist of multi-platinum alt-rock band 311. Over the last 20-plus years, 311 has recorded a dozen albums, sold millions of records around the world. They've had 7 top 10 albums on the Billboard Top 200, 9 top 10 singles on the Billboard alt charts, including songs like Down, All Mixed Up, Come Original, Beautiful, Disaster, Amber, Love Song, and Don't Tread on Me. I could go on, but we got to start the show. They are also one of the most exciting and prolific live bands you will ever see. My friends in Incubus have been fortunate enough to share the stage over the years with the 311 guys on a number of occasions. I feel even more fortunate here today to have them join me here on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Mr. Nick Hexum. Nice to have you, Nick.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here. It's
a pleasure. I was telling you on the break here, it's always fun having like real musicians and singers in here. It brings a much more lively crowd, and I can see already that we have lots of new folks in here. Green Chris, Mike the Friend, Smeeth 311, Queen, English Tribe. Sounds like my kind of gang here. So, first off,
glad they turned out.
Yeah, you can always count on them. As we talked about earlier, most of the folks that are visiting the site in general are folks that are aspiring musicians and music professionals. And when I started this site, the idea was kind of to help mentor some of these folks and try to navigate them around the business. We got a lot of 311 fans with us here today as well. But I think the question I'm most often asked when I'm out at shows or out doing, gigs at colleges and so forth is, how do you get started in the music business? So we've had a bunch of great guests over the last year, and I've asked them all the same question. I'll ask you, how did you get started in this wacky music business, Nick?
Oh, man. Well, first, I always tell them you got to develop a good live show. The experience of one set of guys playing instruments and other people watching and dancing and listening, that goes back for 100,000 years. And the side of studio albums and whatnot, that's only been like 100 years tops, not even that. So it's important to remember that that's the core of everything, is developing a exciting live show and putting your focus on that. So how did I start? The roots of 311, me and Tim had a cover band. The alt-rock in the mid-'80s was REM and the Smiths and the Cure, and we were doing covers. And then we started doing our own songs, had about 7 or 8 originals that were better received than the covers. So we had a lot of excitement being a high school, mostly half and half cover and original band. And then at the end of high school, joined up with Chad Sexton, who I had known. I'd been in the jazz band, the high school jazz band with. So, and that's when the real birth of the 311 sound. We were doing funk and hip hop styles combined with punk rock energy, and Chili Peppers were big at that time, and it was just a whole new sound of combining a bunch of different styles. And that band was called Unity. That was for 88 and 89.
This is your high school band?
This is right after graduating high school. And then there was a incarnation. Chad and I were in LA for a couple years, and right after high school. And then that kind of fell apart. And I had been, trying a bunch of different lineups, different band members, and I was part of the time I was out in LA by myself, and I was taking out ads in Music Connection.
Sure. And
I was meeting, frankly, a lot of bozos. It was a lot of hair metal at the time. That just stuff that I didn't really relate with that much. And then, I was like, the best people I could find are back in Omaha. That my high school buddies. And Chad had got the name of Peanut as a great. I was the bassist at that time, but I wanted to focus more on singing, so it worked out perfect that we had a young kind of bass prodigy. He was 14 when we started jamming with him. So he's the one fortunate guy that's never had to have any. I think he worked at Shoney's restaurant for a week. He's never had any you know, kind of dumb day job or anything. He always says he lucked out there. But and then our first gig as 311 was 1990, June 10th, opening for Fugazi.
Fugazi,
yeah, somebody knew somebody, and they got an opening.
Not exactly
slot.
a match made in heaven, it seems like on paper there.
No, but people were ready to mosh, so it was a great launch. We just blew the place up, and then we did our own independent albums in Omaha for, but one record actually made it to CD, which was a huge accomplishment. The other two were cassette only. This was in 90, 91. And then we all moved out as a band, adding S.A. Martinez, the other vocalist, to the lineup. And we moved out here in 92 and got signed quickly after.
I want to ask you something here. You were from Wisconsin originally, but you grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska. Omaha, Nebraska. What am I thinking? I was thinking, Omaha, Nebraska. Not exactly the hotbed of the music world in terms of a professional thing. I thought it was interesting that you started there, came to L.A., and then went back, because so many of the folks that I talk to and send me tweets and emails, lots of them are not in Nashville, New York, LA, or London, right, where the bulk of the music business is. How did that weigh in your early thinking about it? Obviously, you moved to LA. Was it because you felt some isolation there in Nebraska, or you just liked the idea of being in LA? What was that all about?
Well, I think that first of all, just the fact that we were right in the middle of the country, there was also stylistically, we were, you know, grabbing bits from Jamaica and punk from LA and hip hop from New York. We were like right in the middle geographically, and we were also stylistically being influenced that way. But the great thing about Omaha, you know, I've talked to a lot of touring bands that say, you know, Omaha crowds go off. They're uninhibited, they're ready to rock out and party, and they just treated us like a national act, even though we were a local band. So there was just a lot of enthusiasm, and it built up our confidence pretty well. But then I did feel like we needed to go out and be the little fish in a big pond and go out to LA. But the truth is we got signed from a cassette that we sent around. The move to LA didn't lead to us getting signed.
So you already had something going before you came to LA.
Yeah. And then the Capricorn Records wanted to see us play live, so we said, well, we're not going to play out at the Coconut Teaser in front of 12 people. Let's go back to Omaha and set up a showcase at Sokol Hall where there's 1,000 people going crazy. And so that's what we did, and they were blown away, and they signed us.
Yeah. It's funny, I forgot that you guys were on Capricorn Records, where I have just some wonderful memories of the Allman Brothers and that whole gang down there from, where was
Dixie
that?
Dregs.
That was in Macon, Georgia?
Yeah.
Macon, Georgia. Interesting. You know, it's interesting to hear that, because, you know, so many folks think because you're out of the loop that you can't get something signed. I thought maybe you came out here and got signed, but it turns out it didn't matter. Let me ask you this. When you were starting off, did you have any mentors that got you into music? Were there musicians around the house? You mentioned you were in the high school band. I'm always interested to see, you know, what people influenced, you know, successful people along the way. And so many of them were lucky to have some mentors that took an interest in them and kind of gave you a shortcut to the right answers.
Well, my mom had made a record with a kind of a jazzy, loungy band in the 60s. So she was a fairly accomplished musician on her own. And my dad played trumpet. So we had a very musical family. There was always piano playing. My sister and I both took piano lessons starting at the age of 5. So there was just a lot of music around. And but I'm one of those lucky people that always knew exactly what they want to do. My folks said that by the time I could put the Elvis record on the 45 player and dance around to Hound Dog and whatever, I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. I said, this is what I'm going to do when I grow up. And there was never any other plan. So it was just, I was fortunate to set a goal and work towards it, and been very blessed.
Yeah, I would say you're very lucky, because I think very few people could actually, you know, say that when they were at that early age that what they were thinking actually was real, because you go through so many freaking changes, you know, and different flavors of life that twist and turn. I never set out to be a manager per se. You know, I wanted to be a golf pro, and all kind of twist and turn. And I'm now lucky enough to do something, as we talked about, for 35 years that I would, you know, arguably have done for nothing. You know, so forth. Joe, do we have a call over there?
We do. It's Josh from Indianapolis.
All right, you got a question? Okay, we'd like to take some, you know, get the folks in there. We got a whole bunch of questions, but you got a whole bunch of 311 fans here that post a question. We're going to try to get to all those folks. So we'll start with, what's the gentleman's name again?
Josh.
Josh from Minneapolis. You're on with Nick Hexum. Josh, fire away.
Hey, Nick. Awesome to be here and just have this chance. And been listening to you since I was 11, and now I'm almost 30 myself. And you guys have been a part of creating a movement and just a massive fan base, and have loved being a part of that myself, and wonder where the creativity, not only from the music, but from the events you've done, 311 Days for many years, and Powwow and the cruise, and where does this come from, and where do you see that going?
Well, thanks for calling, Josh. You know, it's tough to say where creativity in general comes from, but you know, we are always discussing as a band. I think that the more conversations the band has, then things come out of that group conscience that no one guy could have thought about. And so, you know, we keep evolving to make sure that our summer Unity tour is going to be exciting, and then setting up new events like you mentioned, the cruise and 311 Day and the Powwow. You know, only did one powwow. We'd love to do it again, but you know, we don't want to stress our fan base too thin. We know it's expensive to go to these travel events, but you know, just like the songwriting, it drops out of the sky. I always say, you know, my job is to take care of the quantity of my songwriting, and the universe, some other place, will take care of the quality. As long as I keep writing songs and keep the pen moving and keep grabbing the guitar, good ideas will come. And I think it's the same way with getting together with the 5 guys in 311. As long as we keep putting in the work, new ideas are going to come, and we're really excited about this new group of songs that we've been just finishing up pre-production that we're going to record for real after our summer tour. So I'm happy to say that, you know, the creativity is still flowing real nice.
Josh, I want to thank you for joining us today. Is this your first time watching the show?
It is.
All right, well, hopefully you'll be back. Now, Cody's not doing, you know, he's getting very enthusiastic on those intros. Where's our shirts here, dude? We give away a little prize for all the bold ones, Josh, so we're going to send you a little T-shirt, so make sure you give Joe your address, and I want to thank you for being on the program today. Great question.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
You know, he brings up an interesting point, that whole idea of making music, Nick. I think it's different in every band. Interesting to hear that you take a very disciplined approach to it, you know, which is fun. We'll talk about that. When you guys as a band, or 311 that is are making music, how does that process work? I get asked this all the time from musicians. Like, I suspect it's going to be your own unique blend. Tell us how a song comes together inside 311.
Well, it's a variety of ways, and it seems it's become more and more collaborative as time goes on. This current list of songwriters on this batch that we just wrote, like every song has 4 guys on it. Which,
from the band or
from the band, and then our producer, Scott Charleston, is writing quite a bit of top line, you know, lyrics and melody. He's been dusting off old demos that he found laying on the hard drive and gave these incredible melodies to that. So we've got definitely more songs on this record than we did on the previous one. But you know, other times it's a singular vision. You know, take a song like Amber was just a demo that I had made by myself and kind of worked out all the parts, and it came out in one just kind of big vomit of creativity, and I have no idea where it came from, but you know, so sometimes it's very collaborative and sometimes it's a singular vision, but as time goes on it becomes more and more collaborative.
Yeah. Were you always as disciplined about the songwriting process as you are now? We had a songwriter by the name of Tom Kelly, a friend of a golfing buddy of mine, who's had a bunch of hits, and it turns out him and his partner really treated it like going to work. They sat down every day and they were going to write something. You know, talk about that discipline side of it. Is that something that you've grown into, or it's always been there for you?
Yeah, when I'm in the beginning of pre-production stage, I will write a song a day. When I say writing a song a day, it's usually just you know, a verse, a pre-chorus, and a chorus, and you know, it's about a minute 20 long. So and then if I really like that, then I'll flesh it out into a complete song. But I always say quantity begets quality. The more you write, the better it gets. And but I do love getting into disciplines. I'm actually on my 5th guitar teacher in the past, in about 5 years. I found a guy now who's just incredible. That's something I've really been focusing on, is working on my guitar work and getting my chops up to a place where my hands can keep up with my ideas, where in the past I had to kind of beg Tim Mahoney to play these, you know, songs, and now we've got a lot more interaction. I'm going to teach this a song later today. I'm going to 311 band practice that uses these crazy Bach chord changes and arpeggios, and it gets into almost like a what do they call it, like math metal, where it's like this dueling guitar freak out. So, you know, there's always frontiers to cross.
It's fun to hear to hear that you're still working, because most people would think after 22, 23 years of doing what you do that you're pretty good at. But I find that people that are really great, you ask them, they're never done. It's always it's in the process. You know, whether you're a musician, whether you're a golfer, whatever it might be, you never quite get there, do you?
That's right. You got to keep working towards something, and the only thing that can really screw you as a musician is when you think you've got it all down. You know, you got to stay teachable.
I think that is probably more universal than just musicians. That thought occurs to me all the time, that my great revelation in life is realizing how little I actually know, not how smart I thought I was. I want to talk about something. You mentioned, you know, a producer, right? And the producer is kind of this mystery kind of gig. We're going to be talking with a big producer on Friday, this kid, Alex the Kid, who's done everybody from Rihanna to Imagine Dragons. When you're in a band and everybody's writing their bits and pieces, you know, the most successful bands have a producer that they work with. I'm interested to hear your take as a songwriter and a member in a band, what you see that role in getting the best out of a band. Important, not so important?
You know,
Depends on the guy.
There's been times when it's worked just great. And I noticed a bit of a pattern now that, you know, we're in double digits, 11th studio album coming out, that the first time we work with a producer, sometimes there's a special magic, because everyone's bringing their A game, because they, you know, they want to be heard and they want to impress this guy. And like our first record that we did with Eddie Offord, he had done these records with Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and all this like prog rock from England, and John Lennon. We were so like blown away to be with him. And then the second record, honestly, he kind of went off the rails, and it didn't add as much as he did on the first record. But then when we first worked with Ron St. Germain, he had, you know, done incredible work with Bad Brains and some of our heroes. So the first record we made with him, that was the Blue Album. That's the one that really blew up huge. And then, you know, there's more examples. The first time we worked with Bob Rock, it was incredible. But Scotch Ralston has been the exception to that. He has been involved in some capacity as an engineer or assistant engineer or mixer with like 4 or 5 or more than that, most of our albums. And I was a little hesitant if he was the right producer because I wanted to make sure we stepped into a new direction. But he's kicked ass, and you know, I tell him all the time, man, I'm so glad you're here working with us, because he brings an excitement that we haven't had in a minute.
Let me ask you another question, and this is based on, you know, tons of emails and questions about the process. Lots of young bands start off, and I think their enthusiasm level and their energy level runs ahead perhaps of their skill level is songwriting. So we get a lot of folks that wonder about, taking their live sound and putting it on record. I had a chance to speak to Brendan O'Brien, a producer, about this one day. He reckons it's two different animals. You guys are a great, great, great live band that has unbelievable energy. Are you trying to capture the live sound in the studio? Or are you trying to craft perfect records? You know, how do you guys make that balance?
Yeah, I think that, you know, some people have said, you're a band you really have to see live to get. The records don't quite capture it, and I don't mind that, because that's what they say about like the Grateful Dead, or you know, bands that are really just you know, monumental in their scope. But I think that is our focus, is to try to make sure we bring the same energy to the records that we do. But you know, I think you got to have a nice balanced focus. Work on your songwriting, your live show, your personal chops, like I said, with guitar lessons and whatnot, and just and keep an eye on the business. You know, you got to be kind of well-rounded, and as your "fuck the gatekeeper" slogan, I mean, things are changing a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot less of, you know, just leaving it to the label. You know, now we are the label. The manager is the label. It's a lot more work for you and Adam, our manager. And,
yeah.
But it's nice. You have a lot more freedom and creative control.
Yeah, no, I think we're all, you know, I think sometimes as folks in the business, you know, don't realize how lucky we are to be able to do what we do. And I try not to forget it myself. We had a bunch of questions here, I mean a ton, about this music that you've already made. So I figure we'll throw a couple of these in there. There's a question from Nick Hex 58. I can't imagine where he'd have been inspired by that. But anyway, Nick had a question there. Cody, fire away.
Yeah, Nick Hex 58 says, hey Nick, when should we expect the vinyl release of Evolver?
Good question.
I put you on the spot. They've been dying to ask these questions, you know, get their purchase, you know, scheduled together.
I'll admit that Chad and SA are our local vinyl aficionados, and if anyone would know, it would be them. I don't know the answer to that question, but I would love it if all of our records do make it to vinyl.
Okay. It's funny how vinyl has come back. You know, I started when it was vinyl, and nobody thought it was that cool.
Yeah.
You know, maybe when you have, you know, we used to roll our weed in the album covers. That was what we thought the real double album was all about. Right. Two sides, right? But it's funny to see how many young folks now are buying their very first turntable to play vinyl. And it's, I wonder how long it'll last when they have to get up in the middle of a great moment and flip over the album. You know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's take another one from Joe. You got a question there about music on the line there, or we'll take another one from the.
Ian from New York has a question about set list and fan interaction.
Okay, you want to take one of those? Let's get New York in the mix here. Why not? What's you got? Is this Ian? You said from New York?
Yep. How's it going?
Hey, you're on with good, man. Thanks for joining us on the show today. You're on with Nick X. And what's your question, sir?
Hey, Nick. Just want to say, big fan. Listened for years.
Thank you.
My question is, I just wanted to know how you guys go about putting your set list together, and that process. And also, like, the big reason I listen to 311 is, like, the unity and the connection to the fans. And I want to know if you guys would ever be open to the idea of maybe having some kind of contest where, like, one of the fans could put together a set list for a show.
You know, there is, we definitely take feedback. You know, me and Peanut are a bit more of the ambassadors because we're on Twitter, and so we're always saying, well, people really liked when we did this, and, you know, so we definitely take fan input as it is, but the actual nuts and bolts of how the song list is made is that the set list is made is that after sound check, we go either to a dressing room or one of the buses, and we just sit around and hash it out as a group. You know, that's evolved to, in the past, maybe one guy would write the set list, and then people became more and more involved, and now we just realize the best thing is to sit down and have a 15-minute meeting planning out the show for that night, and we custom make it to that particular city. You know, we know just different vibes that different towns have and that respond to better, and where there's more hardcore fans and where maybe it's more new fans. We just kind of have a sense of that because we've been doing it so long. So definitely try and be, you know, responsive to both old and new fans, and, you know, following what the fans want. But we did have a thing where on the cruise, on the first cruise, people got to pick the songs. So we have done that before, where the people that came on the cruise actually got to vote and pick the songs. So that was pretty cool, and we definitely appreciate the fan input.
Were you afraid of a little mutiny if it all gone around? We're not getting this boat. I'm not getting off till you play that song.
Yeah.
I imagine, too, it's interesting to hear you say it. I'm grinning the whole time because these are conversations I feel like I've been a part of, different face, same conversation about picking set lists. When you have 12 albums, that's got to be 100 plus songs to pull from, right?
Yeah, like 130.
And you guys play, what, a couple hours a night? So that's, what, 23, 24-ish songs? Yeah. It's hard not to piss somebody off, isn't it?
Yeah. And, you know, people take the band very seriously, so there are people that become disgruntled, and, you know, we just, like, can't please everybody, but we're definitely, you know, trying to keep all the different points of view in mind. But, you know, an artist has to go from the heart, so
yeah.
it's just a balancing act.
It's the most that's one of my most frequently received emails. Why didn't you play this or this? And you know, I don't know how you guys treat Adam. The Incubus guys won't even show me the set list anymore. It's like I tell people, I'm going to watch it out here with you, and, you know, I'll peek over the guy's shoulder, but fuck, I have nothing to do with it, you know. Okay, you know what? We've got all kinds of questions. I want to move on a little bit. You guys, you know, have had you know, almost a fairy tale career when you think about it, in terms of you're a teenager in a band in Nebraska, you know, all the things that can go wrong in the music business, you know, or it's innumerable, right? But one of the things that I think that's most important when I look at bands that have had long careers is they've managed to pick a group of people, musicians and folks around them that have been there for a while. When I started this site, we wanted to give some lessons to people that were starting off, and so I did a bunch of clips. Kind of thoughts about the big picture, how to get your head in the right place. And I want to play a clip here. This one is mostly for the folks that are out there that are perhaps thinking about being in a band or looking to make those first decisions, you know, the right ones. So I want to play this clip and get your thoughts on it as a long professional in the business here. Fire away, Deke. You're going to go and start a band, and you're going to want to have a band that's going to be playing big stadiums and writing big songs and so forth and so on, and everybody's going to have a role in that band. You're going to have a drummer, you're going to have a bass player, you're going to have a guitarist, you're going to have a singer, you might have a keyboard, and everybody's going to start one for all and all for one. That's how it starts. But the reality of it is that as the game plays out, you'll find that there might be people in that band whose role or commitment or skill level is at a higher level than other people in the band. So the analogy I always use is, if you hired your drummer because he had a PA system, but he was a shitty drummer, you would be making maybe a great short-term decision, but if that guy's become a partner in the band, you are setting yourself up for a problem down the road here. So you may still take that drummer on for that PA system, but a smart guy in the band's going to be figuring out where they can get enough gigs to get a real PA system and figure out who's going to tell drummer boy that he's no longer in the band. The examples of this is legendary. The best one was the Beatles, who wasn't Ringo Starr wasn't the first drummer in the Beatles. It was a guy named Pete Best. I don't know who told Pete Best he wasn't in the band anymore. But he wasn't, and so Ringo got all his lunch. If you've actually gotten to a point where you've got a record deal and these people are now legitimate partners, it's not only ugly, it's costly and expensive to get out of those situations. And some of the people that were in a band in the early days that are no longer in the band, they don't just leave the band. Some of them hang around, and in today's world, they can post on your bulletin boards, they can become stalkers, they can become all kinds of ugly scenarios. So at level one, picking your partners in the band is something to give some thought to when you're deciding how to split the proceeds of a band. If it turns out that 2 guys in the band are really the writers of the band and 3 of the guys are just kind of there, that will become a problem later on. So you don't need to think about all that at the very beginning in terms of a band, but it's something to think about, because it's much easier to add a partner than it is to get rid of one. As you move up the food chain, and now you've got a band and you're starting to make some noise there, you'll make decisions about a manager. Everybody, the first thing a band goes, I need a manager. So typically what happens is the first guy that says, I want to be the manager, you've elected him as the manager. And he might be your best friend, he might be your old mate, he might have been, you know, he might have been the guy that had the PA system. But if he's not really a manager, you're going to have a problem in terms of getting to the next level. And you might have signed a contract with that person, and now you're starting to make some noise, and so you got to pay him off. So there's the amount of examples of this are legendary. The bad manager pick, and then paying, and then the band breaks up over the manager. You need to decide who your lawyer is going to be. So if your dad's best friend is a lawyer who kind of wanted to be in the music business but doesn't know anything about it, but he knows contract law, that may sound good if you don't know anything. But once that person's involved, they may do damage to your prospects. And so you need to be careful about that. Same is true with an agent, and on and on and on down the line. So when you're first starting off at level 1 with the band, make sure, I would say, that you're getting involved with people whose musical talent you respect. Don't make a decision for the PA system and have to undo it later. All right, Nick, you have been with the same band members since day one, almost unheard of, really. Same manager. I know we've shared the same agent for years. You know, what do you think in terms of if you were giving advice to people that are just starting off about that idea of picking your partners?
Yeah, you know, I think for it to be a great band, you have to stumble on some really special chemistry. And, you know, in 311, we know that we have something special, and we appreciate it, you know, but it evolved. You know, I probably can think of 10 or 15 guys that I had different incarnations of band with before 311. And, you know, a lot of times there'd be just the attitude was wrong, or, you know, personalities clash. Maybe someone's talent doesn't match up to the, you know, bigger ego than they had of talent. You know, you got to deal with egos, but it has to have the talent to go with it. You know, it just evolves in a certain way, and I don't think you could, if you picked if you'd held auditions and all of a sudden put the 5 best musicians you could find, and it's not going to have that magic chemistry that a band that's evolved, that's come from the ground up, is going to have that. And there's, you know, different people will fall by the wayside, and we've been very fortunate to have you know, 23 years as a band.
Yeah, that's longer than most people stay married. We had a question from a gentleman by the name of Pete Marzichetti, or Ketty, I guess. Take that one away there, would you, Code?
I'm glad you took a shot at the last name.
Pete, we're just going to call him Pete M.
What's up, Big Pete? Thanks for this question. Pete asks Nick, he says, I've been a huge fan since '94 and have been to 43 shows. My birthday is on 3/11, and one of the highlights was spending my 30th birthday in Vegas for what was an unbelievable 311 day. My question is, what do you believe is the key to maintaining such a long, steady, and ever-growing relationship with your bandmates? While most bands come and go, they split up because they grow out of reach with each other creatively or style or what have you. In my opinion, 311 gets better with age. So to circle back, what do you believe is the key to that longevity?
I'm fond of saying, you know, we got to keep an attitude of gratitude, of appreciating, you know, each other's strengths and quirks, and just, you know, remembering how blessed we are to have the career and lineup. And we also have to have breaks. You know, we take time off, especially in the winter. We all have separate lives. A lot of us have kids, and you know, people have side businesses, side musical projects, different things that provide a bit of like pressure relief, so it's not just all about 311 year round. And then we start to miss it, and then we're looking forward to getting back. And so now, you know, I got band practice later today, and then we hit the road in about 2 weeks, 10 days from now, and we're excited because we do take those breaks, and because we get so much energy and love from the fans. I mean, you know, reading Keith Richards' book, that's one thing that he says, that you know, once you hit the stage, it takes away any aches and pains, and the energy from the fans will get you through anything. Like Bob Marley said in that lyric, one good thing about music is when it hits, you feel no pain. You know, it is something that just carries us through.
No, it's great stuff. I love that attitude of gratitude. I'm going to steal that from you. I love a good soundbite there, Nick. I'm going to work that into next season, I think. You know, when you brought up some interesting points, particularly for bands, if you're lucky enough to be around. I mean, if you're a flash in the pan, you don't have to worry about this. But if you're going to be a great band, you're going to have a career, getting along and finding ways to feel good about what you're doing is important. Do you find that, you know, that your hardest of hardcore fans understand now, or have a difficult time understanding the need to just get a little space? You know, for me, it would be not playing with the same guys on Saturday every freaking, you know, hey, dude, that's not a review. I just wanted to play with Louie today, you know?
Yeah, you know, I think mixing it up is great, and just taking those breaks, you know, is a great idea, and it just, because some bands get so hardcore on the merry-go-round that they just, tensions rise and arguments flare up, and you know, after, you know, 2 months in close quarters with somebody, you need a little space from that person, and that's going to happen, you know, in any relationship. You just.
I analogize all the time, and I'll be interested to get your thoughts. You're married, you have a couple of kids, that a band is almost like, if you throw the manager into the mix, add up the number of band members and plus manager, and that's how many marriages you've got going on at the same time. And when you're out on the road, they're all going on in this little tube rolling down the road. It's tricky business, isn't it?
It is. I mean, when you add fatigue and excessive partying and different, and then, you know, arguments about control. I mean, any band will go through problems, but the thing is that we're pretty good about communicating, and you have to be ready to not get your way. You know, to me, if you have one kind of like Axl Rose dude that's trying to control everything, it's not a real band, and the fans will sense that.
Yeah. Great advice there, Nick. You talked about these fans, you know, and you know, if you've got great music, if you've got a great band, and you've got a great attitude and willing to work, you go out and you collect some fans along the way. One of the things that's been striking to me with the whole proliferation of the internet is this wonderful, you know, all these wonderful tools we have now to communicate and develop a real bona fide relationship with the guy who's seen the band 43 times. This is not a guy that's on the fence about 311. That's a guy who's probably heard every one of those freaking 100+ songs here, you know? You got some, I guess you have a group of fans that are called the excitable ones. You know, talk about the 311 connection with the fans, you know, from perspective of a musician, but also that with your head as a business person, trying to figure out where is that connection happening in talk about that, if you would.
Well, you know, I realized long ago that definitely the music is the center of the show, but the fans' interaction with each other is a big special part of it. I've heard of people, you know, tons of people meeting their future spouse at a 311 show or on a chat board or whatever. And then, you know, there's just kind of an attitude. People get into like the slogan of plur, peace, love, unity, and respect. It's kind of like a neo-hippie ideals that people feel when they're at our shows. And so I realized that, you know, music is the cornerstone of the 311 experience, but it's not just about the band. It's about the whole experience that the fans really are a huge part in creating. And then on the last cruise, we had one night was a costume night, and so I had the idea to dress up as a ninja and go and be in the costume contest, which I didn't win at all. I didn't even make the runner-up or anything, but I went and I partied with the 311 fans, and really got to experience that from the other side, and the way everyone was just really everyone was cool with each other. It'd be like, high five, ninja, it was just, everyone was just talking with each other. It was not like you'd see at a normal like nightclub or something. It was this really inclusive kind of unity vibe. So however it happened, we just definitely stumbled on something.
But you guys do spend some time nurturing. Now I heard about these 311 crews for a while, but I got a personal review from a spy on board here. I think who's on the phone right now. Do we have somebody on the phone there, D? I think we have Mr. Chris Kilmore, a.k.a. DJ Kilmore, on the line.
Kill.
Hey, Kill, how you doing, bud?
What's up, Rand? What's up, Nick?
How are you, buddy?
So,
good, man. How you doing?
Doing good.
So Nick was just mentioning the 311 cruise. You were on the last 311 cruise. Kill, give me your take on it.
I mean, I would mirror exactly what Nick just said. For me, it was awesome. Being on a cruise and seeing just 311 rock. 311 and Incubus have a super long history together, and which I know that everybody from our camp is very thankful for. But yeah, it was just people getting on a cruise, and when you're on a boat and you can't leave someplace, you're stuck on it. Some people get antsy, and all the problems with the cruises, which are happening. But the 311 cruise was exactly the opposite of that. There was music, there was love, there's unity. Everybody's talking to everybody. There was no, like pretentious vibe or anything like that. And I just hope one day that Incubus gets to do something like that with 311, because that would be insane.
I think we need a bigger ship, maybe we get a tandem. We could take two cruisers, and we can zigzag. Tell the folks, Nick, how you got Kilmore involved in the act here.
I think we have Tim Mahoney to thank as being the liaison to talking to you about that. We were really happy that you came out for that and played an awesome DJ set. So thanks for being part of it, man.
Yeah, it was great. What you were saying earlier, I got to catch a little bit of it. That's a vibe that is transient through good music. That it brings people together, and it brings out the love in people instead of the other emotions that we see so much in the world today. And we as a band, Incubus, we try to do the exact same thing, and we have the connection with our fans the same way. And I think that is the most crucial part of music.
For sure.
Yeah, it's fun stuff here. And it was funny also, you guys, you had a great lineup there. Kill sent me a note. I don't know if you were on the boat or just gotten back, and Kill sent me a note going, dude, you got to talk to this guy, Elliot Harrington, who's the manager Elliot Soja. It was another guy who was the manager of Revolution. I think you guys had on it. It was Dean Reyes.
Great band.
Great band. Never heard of him before. Now I've come to find out a lot about him, and it's amazing what they've built, out there. So, does the band guys pick those, the lineup, or is that managers, agents get involved? How does that all work?
Managers and agents bring us the candidates, and we kind of push for ones that we think will be a better fit. Same with the Unity tour. We got Cypress Hill and G Love and Special Sauce coming out with us this summer,
wow.
and
Sweet.
We're quite confident it's going to be a good party vibe.
All right, perfect. Well, Kill, I want to, thank you for getting up early today, Killzone. It's nice. I'm very impressed.
I'm up rehearsing for my gig on Saturday night, man.
There you go. See, everybody, our guys are all taking a little break, and everybody's working. Kill's been out working, Mikey, the whole gang, and it's been fun. Kill, when are we going to go play some golf, big guy?
Anytime you call me, Rand.
All right, I'm just about done with our season. I'm going to take it back. Okay, Kill, I'm going to let you run. Thanks for joining us, dude. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you when we're done.
Nick, thanks for having me on that 311 cruise. Anytime you want to do it again, I'm in.
Let's do it again. Thanks for calling, buddy.
Man.
All right, see you later, Kill. I love Kill. We call him DJ Chill is what we really call him, man, because, between him and Duke, I don't know what is the most chill creature on the planet, Duke is my dog who, strangely enough, is not here today, Nick. He's usually sitting right over there in the corner. You guys do a bunch of events, for your fans. You've got the 311 cruise, which I thought was brilliant. I really do hope we can do an Incubus cruise one day. Although I will request that we stay close enough to shore to swim in, given all the recent incidents out there, you know. You do this thing called the 311 Day Special Concert, which I fucking love, you know. Talk about that one. How did that all come together?
Well, in the early days, we wouldn't tell people exactly how we got the name. 311 is the police code for indecent exposure, but we wouldn't tell them the definition, and people came up with a lot of different theories, and they were like, March 11th, 311, that's got to be some special date. And then it just turned out through our routing that we had a show in New Orleans on March 11th. I guess this was late 90s, 99 or 2000, I should know this. Anyway, we held a show that landed on March 11th, and we're like, let's make it a special show. Let's play 3 hours and 11 minutes. You know, make it an event that it just kind of happened fortuitously, and then we started building it up, playing longer and longer, and even moving it to 2 nights last time that we did it. Now it's a biennial, every other year situation. So on even numbered years, we're doing 311 days. So in 2014, we will be doing 311 Day. We haven't announced where yet, but it's going to happen, and it's really exciting for that one day to get to have super huge, over-the-top production, you know, like a bigger band than us would normally have, and
get all the old rock tricks out. Love that.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Sure.
Lasers, you name it.
Explosions, pyro.
Why not?
Gotta have a little pyro, folks. Thank God for all those heavy metal bands that never missed a trick. We had an electronic guy there today, Pretty Lights here. I've gone out to a couple of these. You're a fan of EDM or interested at all in watching all that?
I work out to it. I haven't been to any of the live shows.
Dude, all I can tell you is, Nick, you know, you put on some pretty big rock shows. Just, you know, I will just say, take some sunglasses. It is every rock trick. Blasting lights just blow you right out of the room here. It's like there's no trick is left in the bag here. You got a question for us, Cody?
Yeah, we do. Along this same topic.
I like it. You're making it topical today. Cody is really a former football player. He's working out pretty good so far.
He is.
The 311 Powwow Festival. We had a lot of people asking if there's going to be another one, or if you can talk a little bit more about that.
Well, the powwow was great. You know, we did it up in the Panhandle of northern Florida. We did it in the dead heat of summer, so it was a little stifling with the heat. But we had G-Love and Special Sauce on that. We had Deftones. We had a lot of great support acts, and we played Transistor in its entirety for the first time ever. Played that record from front to back, and we put that out on live311.com, so you can actually buy a recording of that. But like I said before, it's something we would like to do it again, but we had reached a point where we were trying to do cruise, 311 Day, powwow, back in where it was just no way that our fans could sustain all those special, because you got to travel to it and so forth. So it's something we'd like to do again, but we don't have any immediate plans to do, but definitely something we
Well, I'll say this, Nick. You're lucky that you get these things that resonate with your fans, and I think you're also smart to pace them a little bit. You know, it's like one of the keys to sticking around for a while is not leaving every card on the table, I think. And so I hope all your fans appreciate that. I want to shift gears a little bit. You know, again, we've got so many questions here, and I hope all the 311 fans are getting a fair dose of their questions answered here. You guys are working, you mentioned that you're working on some new music right now. This will be your 13th studio album coming out?
I don't think it's quite that many. I think it's 12. 12?
Okay, just 12. Just a dirty dozen. Somebody described the music as darker than usual, and a projected release date of when? The 2014, is that here?
Yes.
Okay. Can you talk at all about the new record? Or is it too early to talk? It is, I understand.
It's diverse. You know, it's just there's a certain flow to it that that, like I said, there's going to be more songs on this album than there were on the past. So that's just a sign that you know, juices are flowing really nice and everyone's really harmonious. And again, Scott Ralston is bringing a lot to the table, and So we're really excited to record the songs for real when we get back from summer tour.
Yeah. Okay. Well, but do you ever take these songs that you've kind of demoed out? Do you play any of those? Any chance that any of those will be played on tour this summer? Or
There's been talk of it. I'm not sure if we will or not.
Okay. Maybe you'll talk about it at band practice here today.
There you go.
You mentioned that you got your how many Unity tours in a row? Is this now 12? Is that?
Yeah. We started the Unity tours in 2000, or 2001. So yeah, like.
And you'll start up again when? Do we don't have do we have the tour dates there, Joe?
Like
we'll post them
beginning
a
of
little
July. We're starting.
Okay, and I see you got G Love and the Special Soft and Cypress Hill. When I was working at Epic Records, G Love was just starting. Really interesting special act. He's kind of working his own side of the street there, old G Love. How's he doing these days?
He's a really nice guy to hang out with, and I like the way he mixes up his show a lot. When he played at the Powwow, he did random covers that I didn't expect. So it's an exciting show, and he was gung-ho to do it. So to have, for me to have a headliner or worthy person playing first out of three, it's going to be an exciting show, and I really, encourage everybody to come early to catch all three bands.
You guys have always taken on, because we share the same agent, John Harrington, who, I know John's watching, he's like one of our biggest, fans here. I'm always interested. You guys continually, and against all odds, keep getting these great bills together with everybody from Snoop Dogg to who are some of the other acts you've had out? You have Snoop Dogg, you got Cypress Hill, you got some stoners out there with. I'll say that.
Yeah, Sublime with Rome. We've had Slightly Stupid. We had Modest Yahoo, Ziggy Marley. And it's always going to be something that's great. A party and to play in the outdoor evening. These are hand-picked bands for that.
Do you take the kids out on the road soon, just for a couple summer vacation days? Get them in the tour bus. Dad not driving.
Somewhat. It was easier when we just had one. Now with two, it gets a little hectic. But I sure miss them. Yeah.
All right. I know you got to get rolling here, but I want to ask you another question. One of the things that's great about music that I'm always felt really good about is that music in so many ways becomes the backdrop to your life. There's these great moments and there's a song playing in the background. And I'm always touched when you get notes from people that are affected in a way, with music beyond just humming along to a song. We have a question there from a gal from where was it? Louisiana.
Yeah, this is from Cody in Louisiana.
Cody. Okay.
They've been really active on the chat, so they'll be glad to get this question in. But he asked. He said, Nick, can you tell me a little bit about the situation that led to the lyrics of "Get Down, Please"? He said, thank you very much. That song saved me, and he's got a really crazy emotional story attached to it. That's on our website if you want to check it out.
Wow. Get that song "Get Down," the B-side from Uplifter, that was on the deluxe package. It's tough to put a finger on exactly what was going on, but I think I was coming out of a hard time in my life, and looking for spiritual answers. It's alluding to meditation and. Getting honest with oneself, and so I think that's what the person is relating with, and I just love it when people have such a deep connection and follow the lyrics that closely, because I know when I was a teenager, and I go back and hear these certain songs that just remind me of a portrait of my summer senior year or something like that. It's so cool to be part of people's lives like that because the lyrics. So thanks for your story.
Yeah, it's one of the great things I love about this business when it does matter. Joe, you got another question for us? Let's take one more on the phone.
Yeah, Alan from Virginia.
All right, Alan, you're on with Nick Hexum. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, hey, thanks. Thanks for taking my call. Stoked about it. Nick,
Cool.
Huge inspiration. Really appreciate the opportunity to get to talk to you. Huge fan. Kind of wrapping everything we've been talking about back to the origin. I'm a big historian on 311 as a whole. Find myself on YouTube a lot, looking at you guys from '94, especially when you're on the road every day.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to the Blue album, I was just going to ask a general vibe of the band around that time, because I know, as Chad mentioned on in Launcher Show Detail, the whole thought process was to keep the song simple and basic, but with a punch. So just if you could speak to the vibe of the band around that time.
Man, I feel like every band goes through this certain spot where they get their musicianship down to a certain level. I remember Joe Strummer talking about how, the first couple albums were more punk, but then when they got to London Calling, their musicianship, because of touring and whatnot, had gotten to a certain level where they could explore more things. And I think that for us, the Blue Album that's our kind of analogy, where we had really, got our chops and whatnot up to what we're doing. There was so much excitement because of the grassroots growing fan base. We didn't get really much help from radio or press on the first two albums. But people were coming to our shows over and over again, and the fan base was growing so much that we just felt a certain confidence that we didn't need them, and so that came through on the energy of that Blue Album. And so I think that's what was going on at the time. And we go through different cycles of wanting to be more experimental and then getting back to basic and just making crowd rockers. So it's hard to say where we're at with that cycle right now, but I know there's some really cool experimental stuff going on the new album. So people say I can't wait to hear where you guys go next musically, and I say me too, because I don't exactly know, and more will be revealed.
That's how you stick around, Alan, as a band for 23 years. It's tough to just regurgitate the same stuff. I mean, it's important to keep some of the the essential elements, but you got to keep it interesting for the audience. But having worked on the side of a band, the band's got to be inspired with it as well. So, Alan, I hope that answers your question. I want to thank you for calling in today. It's been a lively bunch here. We got a Dream It, Do It t-shirt we're going to send you, so give Joe your address before you take off there. Couple other quick questions before we let you go, Nick. These are kind of, I'll just bang through these, Cody. Somebody wanted to know, how does touring performing in your 40s differ from back in the early 90s when it all began? Is it harder to keep the intensity up? You seem like young, you're like a kid in my eyes, Nick, but
I mean, you got to focus a little bit more on. I just think right now the show is the end all be all of our day. Everything else is just kind of preparing for that. But back in the early '90s when we were first doing it, we were. Essay and I were talking about this the other day. We would be partying after the show until the wee hours of the morning. Get up, swilling coffee, smoking bong loads, working out, go jog. Like, we were just so ridiculously active, and then do the show, and it was just like this crazy cycle. And now, we take it easy more. And but that we know that some bands mellow, their energy goes down, and so we're very conscious of that, and making sure that we don't that the shows don't lose their energy that they once had. And people say you guys are rocking harder than ever, and I love hearing that.
It's funny, I think, I used to believe when I was younger that it would all go away, but the truth is a lot of bands, and I think you guys fall in the mix, I know Incubus says, they wind up playing better and get better with age, because I think you work through some of the craziness, because you can only burn so long before it starts to burn you, I've found, and I've experimented at both ends of the candle. One final question from the chat room, then we're going to let Mr. Hexum go to band practice today.
Yeah, definitely. Two things. Stony Baby says, Nick ages like a fine wine and he can still jump.
There you go.
But here, I got one more question for you. Arkiss asks, should 311 fans make any plans for Halloween this year?
Ninja's taken. Maybe not.
Man, we're going to be headlong into recording the album at that time, so I doubt we'll do a Halloween show. But like I said, 311 Day is around the corner.
You never know. Okay. Well, Nick, I want to thank you so much for being part of the show today. Before I let you go, though, I'm going to tell everybody what we got coming up Friday. Friday, this whole week has been great. We've had some great musical folks, and for me, I love it. I love hanging out with musicians. If I could have been you, Nick, I'd have traded my golf game in a heartbeat. We're going to be talking making music with one of the most successful young producers around. His name is Alex the Kid. He's from England by way of Los Angeles, California. Now, he's worked with everybody from Rihanna to Imagine Dragons, ex-ambassadors, pretty wide swath of musical territory. So it'll be fun to talk to him. I want to thank all the 311 fans that joined us today. I got to tell you, this might be our biggest crowd ever. I'll be checking the stats when we're done, the old manager and me. And proving once again, though, is what I told Nick ahead of time. You get the smartest guys in the music business here. I could get 10 Irving Azoffs, and throw in the freaking oddball Bob Lefsetts, and we won't get half of what we had today here. So I want to thank you so much for joining us, taking the time and coming here and sharing a little bit of your experience and enthusiasm about music. One final question for you. 23 years in, you've had an unbelievable ride. You still loving it, Nick?
Having a blast, looking forward to the next chapter. And, we just had our 23-year anniversary as a band. And Chad and I were like, yeah, we can easily do another 23 years. Why not? We're going strong. But yeah. I want to thank all the question askers and the callers and the posters and whatnot. It's nice to get the love. And I had fun here today. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. All right, my name is Steve Rennie. The program is called Renman Live. Our website's called RenmanMusicAndBusiness.com. I want to thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on Friday. I'm the Renman, and I'm out of here.